to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets quivered along bursting in, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Good morning, and welcome to the Cybil High School's 11th Annual Veterans Day Program. It is my privilege to welcome our Veterans Day guests today. Some of our guests are joining us for the first time. We are thrilled to have you here today. We hope you will make this a regular event in your calendar. Others of you have been kind enough to attend our halls many times. We are always glad to see familiar faces entering our halls again. We hope you enjoyed your breakfast. We hope our program will honor you and truly show our appreciation for your service. Each year, this night is kind enough to work with the pre-K students so that they can be a part of our program. At this time, we welcome them as they come to share their songs with us. November 11th was not randomly chosen as a day of remembrance and honor. Here's a brief history of this day.
In the United States, November 11th is recognized as Veterans Day. What is Veterans Day? Why is it celebrated on November 11th? In the early morning hours of November 11th, 1918, the Allied powers, which included France, Great Britain, the United States, and many others, agreed with Germany to end the fighting during World War I. Later that day, an official armistice or ceasefire was signed. In fact, the armistice was signed in Paris at 11 a.m. on November 11th of 1918, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. This date was almost instantly recognized as being an important one. The following year, in 1919, many nations declared November 11th a national holiday. The day became known as Armistice Day and honored those who had died during the war. Many nations still honor Armistice Day, and the focus of the holiday is placed on soldiers who have lost their lives, similar to the American holiday of Memorial Day. There are several different traditions associated with Armistice Day. For example, some nations still observe a moment of silence, usually for 2 minutes, at 11 o'clock in the morning. The first minute is said to honor the millions who died during World War I. The second minute is for the living who were also affected by the war, including wives, parents, and children. There are also significant ceremonies which take place in South Africa and Australia, as both nations were profoundly impacted by World War I. In South Africa, they observe the moment in darkness as well as silence. In Australia, instead of 11 o'clock a.m., they observe their moment of silence at 9 o'clock p.m. This is because at 9 o'clock p.m. in Australia, it is 11 o'clock a.m. in Paris. In other nations, the nature and focus of the holiday changed after the conclusion of World War II. At that point, Great Britain began referring to the day as Remembrance Day. In America, the holiday became Veterans Day. However, in the United States, Veterans Day has grown to recognize all of those who have served their country, whether living or dead, and even honors those still serving. A World War II veteran, Raymond Weeks, was the first to propose the notion of recognizing all veterans on this day. He approached Dwight Eisenhower with the idea, and it was eventually presented as a bill before Congress. Veterans Day was recognized as an official holiday on May 26, 1954. Today, Raymond Weeks is remembered by some as the father of Veterans Day. At first, Veterans Day continued to be celebrated on November 11th. However, In 1971, it was briefly moved to the fourth Monday in October. It remained on that day until 1978, when it was returned to the November 11th date. Today, Veterans Day is recognized across the United States and is observed on the 11th of November each year. Americans all over the country join with many others around the world to honor those who have served in the military.
We are glad to be able to share this day with our guests. This year, we were able to add another layer to our program from our Fine Arts department. Seniors Cameron Kilpatrick and Kelly Tim Wilson Jr. will now come and present a few thoughts and highlights from our upcoming musical, White Christmas.
For those who are in our assembly who aren't aware, USO, or United Service Organizations, is an institution which seeks to strengthen America's military service members by keeping them connected to family, home, and country.
One of the primary focuses of the USO is to entertain the troops overseas, from the Rock to Scarlett Johansson to the Chainsmokers to Jon Stewart. Modern acts work diligently to show the American soldiers that we are and that we care.
In 1948, Irving Berlin pitched a film in Paramount Pictures. You see, he was a strong supporter of the USO, and his story would center around a common theme that speaks to all Americans: spending time with those we love. But Irving Berlin didn't want just any story. He wanted a story that highlighted the men of the armed forces.
White Christmas centers around two veterans who become very successful after they return home. After accidentally landing at their former commanding officer's failing hotel, they use their fame to keep them from going bankrupt.
This song, Let Yourself Go, from the musical White Christmas, was originally written as a song to inspire the troops, and we hope you enjoy this song. Happy holiday, happy holiday, while the merry bells keep ringing, may your every wish come true. Happy holiday, happy holiday, happy holiday, happy holiday, may the calendar keep ringing. Happy holiday to you. Come get together, let the dance floor fill your leather. Step as lightly as a feather, let yourself go. Come hit the timber, loosen up and start to limber. Can't you hear that hollering? Let yourself go. Let yourself go. Relax and let yourself go. Relax, you got yourself tied up in a knot. The night is cold, but the music's hot, so come on, cuddle closer. Don't you dare to answer no, sir. Put your baker, clerk, and grocer. Let yourself go.
Our guests have distinctive memories and thoughts when they hear the word veteran, or when they think of Veterans Day. I'd like to share with you what I think of when I hear the word veteran. When I hear the word veteran, I think of my great-grandpa, Lloyd L. Hansen. He served in World War II and was drafted in the Navy September 4th, 1942. He spent his service aboard the USS Pennsylvania for 3 years and 3 months as a gunner. During his lifetime, he rarely spoke about the war, but I recently discovered a history that he wrote detailing some of his experiences. I'd like to share an experience he had that I found particularly touching. He was aboard the USS Pennsylvania and they were on course to Okinawa in preparation for the invasion of Japan. He says, "We've been very fortunate up to this time. We have invaded some 13 islands. We have never had a casualty due to enemy fire, so our luck was continuing to hold up. It was, however, about to run out a little later on. On August 6th, they received a report that the U.S. had dropped a bomb on Hiroshima. A few days later, they received a report that a bomb was dropped in Nagasaki. He says, they knew at the time that Japan was brought to their knees and that she decided to surrender. They arrived at Okinawa on August 12th. He says they were pretty happy because they figured that the war was over. That night, they anchored in Buckner Bay. My grandpa went to sleep in the front part of the ship. Soon after he fell asleep, a Japanese plane flew into the bay and dropped a torpedo that hit the back part of the ship. The ship's defenses were pretty relaxed because they thought the war was almost over. The torpedo hit about the only place on the ship where they didn't have extensive armor. It blew a hole in the back Fires were reported in several parts of the ship, but they were supposed to remain where they were while others fought the fires for them. The fires were eventually put out, and they were able to seal the doors to the part of the ship that was damaged. Doing so meant that the men on the other side of the door would lose their lives. My grandpa said that this was something that had to be done to save the ship. There were 20 men in that compartment, one of which my grandpa considered a close friend. They would sit on watch together and talk through the night about home, girlfriends, family, and all the things they missed. They would also sing. His friend taught him the song Harvest Moon, and they would sing it and other songs to pass the time. Because my grandpa knew his friend getting the fields, he went down to the bottom of the ship and they took the bodies out. He said, "I wanted to honor him, I guess. They had crews down there that were trying to find the bones of those that had lost their lives. But they put them into each casket. I'm sure that some of the caskets just had a few bones, but that was the best they could do. A little later on, we had services for those who were killed. They played something, maybe the national anthem, and they fired a salute for each person. They dropped the caskets into the ocean. While my great-grandpa Hanson was aboard the USS Pennsylvania, they fired 6,854 14-inch rounds, 31,678 shells from their 5-inch guns, and 36,127 rounds from their anti-aircraft battery. They had the record of being the ship that fired the most ammo during the war. They also earned a Navy unit commendation and also received 8 battle stars for the different battles they were in. My grandpa wrote, "I've never shown them to anyone. I don't know what happened to them, I just don't really care. Once I got home, I just wanted to forget about the war." Like I said, my grandpa rarely spoke of the war or his experiences. I've only heard him relating the story of his friend one time, and it was at a church service. He stood before the congregation and sang Harvest Moon. He then told the story of his friend and finished by saying, "I came home from the war. I have had a wonderful life, I have a wonderful family, children and grandchildren, and all the blessings of living in this country. Some call us heroes, but we aren't the heroes. The heroes are the ones who never came home, who never had a family or an opportunity to live a good life. They are the real heroes. My friend who taught me Harvest Moon never came home. He is one of those heroes." My great-grandpa passed away in 2013. He was 92, and he would be 98 if he was still alive today. I wish he was so that I could tell him that in my eyes, and I'm sure the eyes of many others, he was a hero too. All those who have fought, and even those who haven't fought, have been willing to sacrifice their lives, are heroes. We owe thanks for our freedoms to every single veteran, and I'm grateful to be able to honor them and my great-grandpa Hanson this Veterans Day.
This year, we welcome one of the most unique speakers we have ever had. In 2007, Sunnyvale High School came into existence. 4 years later, in 2011, its first graduating class walked across the stage. Among these graduates was a young woman named Cybil Rajan. She exemplifies our school motto, "Strive, Honor, Serve," that was implemented while she was a student here. She left Sunnyvale and attended Baylor University, where she graduated in just over 2 years with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science. From there, she attended the University of Tulsa School of Law, graduating in 2016 with her Juris Doctor degree. She co-authored the Access to Justice Initiative in Oklahoma and was admitted to practice law before the Supreme Court in Texas. Upon joining the United States Air Force, she received a direct commission as an Air Force Judge Advocate and entered active duty in January 2018. She is currently an Assistant Staff Judge Advocate assigned to the 72nd Air Base Wing, Office of the Staff Judge Advocate, Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma. She serves as Chief Adverse Actions. She has received the National Defense Service Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, and the Air Force Training Ribbon. She returned to us today, and we couldn't be prouder to welcome her back. Join me in greeting Captain Cybil T. Rajan of the United States Air Force.
I grew up in Sunnyvale my entire life. I went to elementary school here, middle school, and high school. In fact, I was part of the first class of Sunnyvale High School, which meant a whole lot of pressure to succeed. And in 9th grade, I was determined to be a lawyer. I was actually trying to avoid the medical career that my parents wanted for me. So I went through high school in my own bubble. I tried to make good grades, to be involved in extracurricular activities, wondering why Mr. Finnick would always yell at me in Spanish. But I always had this desire to do something greater and be a part of something more meaningful. And that thought was always tucked back in the back of my head, and it continued to follow me college, and then eventually in law school. And law school was completely awful, spoiler alert to any of you who think about the legal career. And it was a whole lot of debt too. And I really wanted to make money, but I also wanted to positively impact the world. And having both of those things seemed impossible with being a lawyer. So this thought kind of haunted me throughout, and I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my law degree. And it was only during my last semester in law school that a mentor told me about joining the Air Force as a judge advocate general. And he told me that it would help jumpstart my career into virtually any path that I chose. I laughed when he actually mentioned that. I was completely the wrong person for the military. None of my family had ever been in the military. I wasn't super fit. I could barely even do one push-up. And my personality was pretty bubbly instead of the rigid personality that you think of when you think of military. I also could barely wake up for school every day, so I definitely couldn't wake up at 6 a.m. to PT and run. But something told me that I had to research more about this idea. And the benefits seemed great. I would be able to pay off some of my loans, I'd get free healthcare, I could travel, I could pretend to be Tom Cruise from A Few Good Men, and I'd still be able to be a lawyer, yet be a service member at the same time. So my heart told me to join, and although my parents were kind of hesitant about the idea, they wanted me to follow my dreams, follow my heart, and my passion. So off I went to basic training. And a lot of it's kind of a blur. I tried to repress a lot of the memories of the drill sergeant screaming at me for even breathing, making perfect hospital bed corners every morning, eating meals out of boxes, MREs, if my fellow veterans remember that, the 5 a.m. jogs in freezing weather. I will especially never forget the time that I got so nervous because I was chosen to lead my squadron in marching drills. And you better believe I marched them straight into a flagpole. And so that evening I was so sure, I'm gonna pack up my bags, I'm gonna get out of here, this is not really what is meant for me. And a drill sergeant saw the fear in my eyes. And instead of yelling at me, he walked up to me and reminded me of my purpose and the reason for joining. At least that's what I told myself whenever he told me to buck up and stop screwing around. So, after that, I got to my first station at Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma, where I am right now. And I assimilated more into the military culture and the everyday lifestyle of being a JAG. I didn't come to appreciate the real benefits of being in the military once people started thanking me for my service to our country. And I had to think really long and hard about what that meant and why they would say that to me. I was a JAG officer who sat in my office all day long, writing legal reviews, talking to commanders. I wasn't out of the frontline battlefield physically fighting for our country. I wasn't deployed in a hostile location at that moment, witnessing awful tragedies occur. But after really thinking about it, it made sense. The idea of service, true sacrifice, is living your life by using your talents and skill set for someone other than yourself. I don't make as much as I would in the civilian world. I'm not able to settle down in one area because we move every 2 years. I may miss important family events like weddings and birthdays. I live a life of the unexpected. I can deploy tomorrow or at any time to any given area and be in a position where I would have to advise a general or a colonel on whether to strike an area in accordance with the laws of armed conflict and the rules of engagement. I have to be the jack of all trades. I could be prosecuting a rape case one day. I could be giving advice on landlord-tenant issues to another airman the next day. Or I could be writing the legal impact on our planes to our environment to a commander. My service, like every airman, soldier, Marine, sailor, and Coast Guardman, is sacrificing freedoms that other people are given by answering the call to live for something greater and by using our talents and skills for our country. This is true for every veteran who chose to dedicate their life to the service. Whether you work in PR, in the medical field, a mechanic, a financial advisor, each and every person is vital to the overall mission. And this day, this holiday, commemorates those people who vowed to serve our country in the best way that they could. Students, just look in front of you. These are people who wore the uniform and became civilians eventually, but retained that duty and valor that the uniform gave them. They all have different stories about their lives and what serving meant to them. I encourage you to learn about their lives as you'll learn the many faces of a service member. And although these folks don't wear fatigues anymore, consider and remember the sacrifice that they made years ago, willing to lay down their life for all of us. And when they chose to take off the uniform, their service to our nation never stopped. Whenever you thank someone for their service, remember the sacrifices they made to their families, to their communities, to their comrades, and to our country. To our veterans here, I sincerely thank you for your service and sacrifice, and share the same pride that you feel in being able to say that you served in the greatest military in the world. Thank you.
NHS President Ashley could not be here today due to a divide Congress competition. However, her contribution to this program is still significant. She made this video, and now we would like to present it to you.
To support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of those officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.
Today, in the harried pace of life, we pause to take deep breaths and look carefully behind us, casting our eyes back to faces from long ago, to those who no longer sit at our tables or walk this plane, or breathe this air we breathe, those who gave a portion of their lives, or more than a portion. Today, in the harried pace of life, we pause to take deep breaths and look carefully around us at those who live their lives among us in the aftermath of their service, who, for a time, left home. Some fought battles, some lent support and went where they were needed. Today, in the harried pace of life, we pause to remember all whose desire to serve and willingness to go made them the benefactors of our security, and breathed life into the freedoms we enjoy. Today, in the harried pace of life, we pause to take deep breaths and look carefully beyond where we are, to those who are still away, who still serve, who still think about going home. We honor those who honored and continue to honor our country, so that every child can go to school, every man or woman can go to work or vote. And safety in this nation is not a blessing, but a right that we are blessed to receive by those who would risk everything, so that we may have anything. Dwight D. Eisenhower said, "The eyes of history are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you." This holds steadfast in our nation today. We are reminded by our seemingly ritual pledge to the flag, by our study of speeches of those greater than us at an unfortunate time, by the patriotic bumper stickers and the American flag hats, and most importantly, those in our community, who tell tales passed down by those who give us something to be reminded of. The fireworks we see on 4th of July represent our independence. To those who have served, it is a reminder that our battle for independence is not yet won, a reason to keep fighting, so those at home may celebrate with confidence in our nation. These brave soldiers protect our nation, our manifest destiny, from shore to shore or sea to shining sea. Navy, Army, Air Force, Marines, veterans and soldiers, survivors, our moms and dads, our aunts and uncles, our grandparents, our brothers and sisters, our classmates, our students, our friends and peers have become our heroes, tethered together by not only war stories or memories of boot camp, but the desire to protect one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
huge thanks goes to Mr. Clark Mitchell and Coach Baldwin, who spent time holding the final technology setup, and to Mrs. Becky Fisher, who has once again been our mentor and facilitator in the creation of the video portion of the presentation. We are also grateful to our administration, teachers, and staff for their support and for seeing the value in setting aside time to honor our guests. Finally, to our honored guests, thank you so much for carving out time in your day to attend our program. Your service for our country means more than we could ever say. And for us, your presence here brings meaning to our Veterans Day. Students and teachers, please join me in offering a final